And the Sahaba spoke about this ayah specifically in this regard. One of the Sahaba came to another one and he said, after the Prophet ﷺ had passed away, and said, I have some confusion about this ayah. The world has changed a lot. Since the Prophet ﷺ passed away, the world changed dramatically. The world, like the ummah, so much wealth came into the ummah, so many people accepted Islam by the millions. Everything changed. So many different languages and cultures. So they were trying to understand. A lot of fitna also came. So they were trying to understand the Quran. Like, how did we... He asked them about this ayah. Aren't we supposed to... Can't they also harm us if they deviate? Aren't we supposed to... When Allah says you're only accountable for yourself, aren't we also supposed to do da'wah? Isn't that part of our obligation? So how am I only accountable for myself? Meaning I should just do nothing and just worry about me? So one of the Sahaba said, I had the same exact question. And I went to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and I asked him. And he clarified it for me. Right? So just to clarify our process, at the beginning of the ayah, Allah says, alaykum anfusakum. That's how we know that this is referring to the akhirah. Because on the day of judgment, yeah, you're only alone. Allah says in the Quran, يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. Right? On that day, a person will run away from their own brother or sister. They will run away from their own mother and father. They will run away from their own children and from their spouse. That's not something you do in this world. Everyone, you work together. You want to save them as they want to save you. But on the day of judgment, that's it. That's it. It's testing time. There's nothing you could do for them, nothing whatsoever. And there's nothing they could do for you whatsoever. So at that point, it's every person is tested. وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. Allah says each and every single person will arrive at their Lord on the day of judgment alone. May Allah Ta'ala make it an easy day for us. So, how do we understand this ayah? Let me pull up the hadith in which the Sahabi said, well, I asked the Prophet ﷺ to help me understand this. And he said, you have asked what another person came to him and asked him, how do I understand this verse? And he said, rest assured, you have asked somebody who knows, meaning himself, because I had the same confusion and I asked the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and he responded with the following: enjoin good and forbid evil until you see a change in the people, until a certain fitna comes. When you see people have overwhelming stinginess, and you see that desires are the only thing that the general public follows, and you see that people prefer this dunya to the hereafter overwhelmingly on a societal level, and every person is proud of their opinion and stubborn with their opinion, and you realize that you no longer have any power to deal with them or to influence them, in which case then you have to mind your own business and leave the common folk to their own devices. Because after such a time there will come days of patience, during which a sabr or patience will be like grasping on hot coals, and the one who does good deeds will have the reward of 50 men who do the same deed. You guys have heard that famous hadith. It's the Prophet ﷺ said this message many times. The fact that there will come days of patience. Ayyamu sabr, right? Al-mutamassik bidinihi kal-qabid ala al-jamar. Famous hadith. It comes in many different narrations. So it implies that the Prophet ﷺ warned the Sahaba many times about it. Hey, there will come times where you will need patience. And patience will be like holding on to hot coals, which is extremely difficult to do. And you need to da'a amr al-amma. Leave the general public. Don't get too involved, because it just becomes fitna and fitna and fitna. So, and you will see وَتَرَى إِعْجَابُ كُلِّ ذِي رَأْيٍ بِرَأْيِهِ. This is a very important part of the hadith. إِعْجَابُ كُلِّ ذِي رَأْيٍ بِرَأْيِهِ. Everybody who has an opinion, first of all, there's hundreds of opinions. He's saying that a time will come. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you had the Prophet and the Sahaba. If they had a confusion, they went to him, and it was a unified front. A generation goes by, now there's 2 or 3 opinions. Right? And then you had the Khawarij, they're fighting the Muslims, and you had the Shi'as start to form. 2 or 3. Every generation there's more and more and more. And the Prophet ﷺ said, eventually, and I'm paraphrasing many different hadiths here because there's so many about the end times. The Prophet ﷺ warned against the end times many times. He said, I'm paraphrasing again, he said there will be like a fog. In fact, in some hadiths he said ad-duhayma, and other things he mentioned it would be like a black fog. He's talking metaphorically, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It'd be like a black fog where you can't really see. How far ahead can you see if there's fog but it's dark? Come on. Like you can probably see, slightly ahead of you, right? So he said it'll be so blurry. There'll be so much confusion. وَتَرَى إِعْجَابُ كُلِّ ذِي رَأْيٍ بِرَأْيِهِ. Every person who has an opinion is so stubborn and so proud of their opinion. No, this is the correct thing. Nobody's willing to listen, and you see that you have no power over anybody. Khalas, you cannot really convince anybody of anything. It's just confusion, and everyone's stuck on their opinion. He said, in which case, you retreat. In those cases, you retreat. Now, and this is the understanding of this ayah. So number one, on a fundamental level, this ayah means on the day of judgment, at the end of the day, after everything you did in this dunya, you enjoined good and forbid evil to the best of your ability. You tried to convince your family. You tried to do everything you can. You did dawah. You donated. At the end of the day, after all is said and done, after you're put into your grave and you come back out of it, you are answerable for you and what you did. And so is everybody else. They cannot say, man, but he didn't warn me. Sure, that person might be responsible on the day of judgment. He might get some sin for not having warned you, but doesn't mean he can carry you at the end of the day. You get it? He's not going to be sued and say, well, in that case, he takes the hellfire and you are spared of it. He may receive some punishment. For example, if a father neglects their children or a mother neglects their children, they don't teach them about Islam. They are sinful. But then the child grows up and becomes an adult, and they live for 50 years as an adult. So they had 50 years to make their own decisions as an adult. So the parent will be sinful for their bad upbringing, but they will not carry it off of the adult who lived a long time and had the choices to make. Make sense? So you are responsible for yourself on the day of judgment. That's a fundamental teaching. Second teaching is that the Prophet ﷺ warned, there will come a time where this ayah will apply to the dunya as well. And when you read the tafsir or sort of the commentary on this hadith, this time is not one time specifically, where holding on to patience will be like holding on to a hot coal. It's not like one time it will come in human history or human future and that's it. It's cyclical. It cycles. So it comes and goes. It comes and goes. And there will be periods of time where it lasts for years. As the Prophet ﷺ said, years of treachery, where the person who is truthful gets treated as a liar, and the person who is a liar gets treated as truthful. In which case patience is needed, and you disconnect accordingly to the level of evil that's out there, the level of distractions that's out there, the level of bad influence that's out there. You disconnect more and more. So in our era today, how can we apply that? That's what I want to talk about today, a skill that we can learn, inshallah. So this skill, as I told you, inshallah ta'ala, if you pay attention and learn, actually focus on this skill for the next half an hour or so, I promise you're going to be making dua for me the rest of your life, inshallah. Because it's a skill that you can use in work, in school. It's a skill you can use in work, in school, marriage decisions, what to do next in life, everywhere. The skill is called blocking out the noise. Blocking out the noise. Who has heard of this before? Just the term. Even if you don't know it, I'm not going to ask you to define it. Blocking out the noise. Okay, it's a good amount of people. So another phrase that they may use, like in business or other things, they'll say how to differentiate between the signal and the noise. There's two things. You're looking for the signal and you want to differentiate between signal and noise. Based on that, who can try to attempt to define it for me? Anybody want to say, what does it mean, blocking out the noise? What is this skill? Nobody? Yes. Ignore distractions and focus on your goals. Yes, jazakumullah khairan. That is the simplest way to put it. Ignore distractions and focus on your goals, right? So let me define the word noise here. Now, obviously, when someone says block out the noise, you get a visual in your head, right? If there's a loud noise, imagine everybody's chatting here, everybody, and you're trying to hear me if I didn't have the mic. And you're trying to listen. This guy's the one giving the lecture. I want to listen to him, but everybody's chatting. There's a lot of noise, right? It's a very literal interpretation. I want to hear the signal. The signal here is the lecturer, the guy speaking. Are you going to be able to hear him well when there's a lot of noise? Yes or no? No. What are some tools now? Let's say, okay, I'm sitting here, no mic, and you're trying to hear me, and everyone's chatting. But this is your situation. You're stuck in that situation. You can't. You have to fix it with the tools that you have. What do you do next? Get closer. Jazakallah khairan. So you get closer to the signal, like actual physical proximity, or metaphorically closer, like you start unfollowing the pages that are distracting you. You only follow the good pages online. So it's either physical, but literally physically get closer. Another way you physically get closer, if we're talking about this is a life skill. You surround yourself with good people. You be present in the message. You don't be present in the places that distract you and put you away, right? Beautiful. One of your tools, I want people to write this down. One of your tools to help block out noise is to get closer to the signal. Next, another tool. You're in this situation. Everyone's talking, you're trying to hear the speaker. What's another thing you do? You get a little bit closer. Great. Another thing. Yes. Okay, great. So, to the best of your ability, to the best of your authority, if you have authority or if you have that kind of influence, you try to silence as best as you can. Now, I want to be cautious with this one because it's impossible to block out silence actual noise. Blocking out is a different skill. You use different skills to block out the noise because you could block it out for yourself by coming closer or maybe putting headphones and listening online. You know, I don't want to take the example too literally, but I'm giving you a physical example so you can visualize it. But yes, beware of trying to silence all the voices. You'll be chasing ghosts the rest of your life. If you spent your time trying to chase everybody who makes lies up about Islam. No, that's not true. Islam doesn't agree with that. How long are you going to be chasing? Rest of your life. You might make some wins, but it's like playing whack-a-mole you ever played whack-a-mole? You hit one mole, what happens next? Next one comes up, you hit that one, next one comes up, it never ends. That's exactly how it is when you're chasing. I want to silence the noise. How dare they say this? We need people on our team attacking these lies. Like they showed a few days ago in the New York Post, they photoshopped a picture of I forgot which flag, Hezbollah or something, on Columbia University and said, this is what the people are doing. They will just continue lying. No matter what we do, they will continue to lie. So to some extent, we do need people on our team silencing these voices and showing them that we have power, and we're not going to let you just get away saying any lies against us. But that has to be done strategically because I don't want you chasing ghosts your whole life, right? Because you'll actually never succeed in silencing all of them, and at some point, the actual better tool is to increase your power and overpower them. And in fact, I think we are at that point. I think enough trying to sort of, please guys accept us. Please guys believe us that we're peaceful people. Please believe us and read the Quran. No more please. You say, no, I'm just going to work on ourselves. We're going to consolidate our power. And then through our power, they will not, when they have a risk of losing a lot of money, the same way these organizations, they don't dare speak about the Jews on their front page of their media like that. Because power and money and political influence is that simple. They don't need to beg them. They just have to threaten them slightly. Like, you dare print that, you will be sued into oblivion. You're going to be blacklisted. We're going to get stores to boycott your product. They know very well that they can never make such a statement about Jews on the front page, ever. It's that simple. So at some point you realize, I am wasting my energy chasing after these people. Please understand we are peaceful. They know they're lying. They know you're peaceful. They don't need to be convinced. They're lying. But now you realize we got to direct our energy elsewhere. So it's great. Silence as much of the noise as you can within your influence. So let's say one of the brothers or one of the sisters is an organizer here. You're a volunteer. You're a recognized face. If you get up and say, hey guys, quiet, there's going to be some success there. So it's your amana and your responsibility in the day of judgment to use your influence and your power to the best of your ability to reduce the noise. What's another tactic you use? Yes?
Use the noise as fuel.
Okay. How so?
Like, for example, if you're trying to achieve a goal, and people are telling you you're not going to make it, you're not good enough, this, that, and the third, then you just better yourself, put your head down, educate yourself, or get better at whatever that goal is, and use that.
Awesome. Use the noise as fuel. I love that. But can I ask you this honest question? Can everybody utilize this skill?
Probably not. You have to be
strong mentally. Yes. Just like, I love it. It's a good skill. And I think we should write it down for those who are writing. It's one of them. Use the noise as fuel. I will word it this way. Channel your ego. Everybody has an ego. And in Islam, we're told to put your ego down. And that's what we should do. Think of your ego as a dog on a leash. It needs to be the dog on the leash. If you're on the leash and your ego is controlling you, we see people like that. And it leads you straight to the hellfire. And the best example of that is Shaitan himself. His ego had him on a leash. When Allah eventually told him, bow down to Adam, he said, I can't do that. No, ana khayrun minh. I'm better than him. No way. Come on, I sit with the angels. His ego had him on a leash. If you have your ego on a leash, what can you do? You direct it. So I love this idea. And this is a warrior's spirit. You say, you tell your ego doesn't like when people tell you, you're not going to make it. Come on, who are you? Who do you think you are? You're going to change the world? You're going to be a big warrior? You're going to be a superstar? Get out of here. Shaitan tells you that all day. What are you religious now? You start praying all of a sudden? What, you were sitting yesterday. You think you're a big shot now? Shaitan hits you with that. You need, and I think this is important, you channel your ego. Tell yourself, you know what? No, how dare they speak that way about me? Inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to show them. But this is a beautiful skill, and it's a really a warrior skill that we definitely should use. Not everybody has access to it. Not everybody has the self-esteem for it, but I definitely will include it on the list. What's another tool you use, a tactic, to block out the noise in that example we just gave? There's one more I'm looking for. Nobody said it yet. Thank you. Jazakallah khairan. Amplify. I want people to write, amplify. I don't know if we're on number 3 or 4 right now. Amplify the noise, the signal. If you cannot block out the noise or silence the noise, what do? Amplify the signal. So I said, I'm speaking without the mic and everyone's talking. You tried and let's say you can't. We tried the guy with influence, quiet people, it didn't work. We tried using as fuel, but they just keep bringing us down. They're confusing us. They're throwing out too much signal. So too much noise. We tried a few. Don't worry. Like the thing is, you're not going to use one tactic at a time. There has to be every one of us guarding a frontier. It is recorded from the Prophet ﷺ. You're listening? He said, كلكم على ثغر أو كل واحد منكم على ثغر من ثغور الإسلام فلا يؤتين الإسلام من ثغرك. أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. It is reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, each and every single one of you is standing on the frontier, is guarding one of the posts of Islam, one of the outposts, the guard posts of Islam. So do not let Islam be attacked from your outpost. Each of us is standing guard. We're protecting our deen and our ummah and our people. Do not let your guard down so Islam gets attacked from your arena. You can't cover all the guard posts. No way. But you have a certain skill set Allah has given you. You have a certain talents. Maybe you have not discovered them yet. You have certain skills and like unique sort of combination of things that nobody in this room has. I promise you. This is not some dreamy mumbo jumbo like, oh, everyone's special. But truly, every single person in this room has a unique setup of circumstances, skills, access, networking, family, wealth, etc. Your combination, nobody has that in the world besides you. And you will find a way to use that to serve the ummah in a way. Every single person here has the opportunity to be worth 10 million people. And I mean that, wallahi al-azim. This is so true. And we've given examples by the dozen. People came out of left field, like Khabib, the fighter. He was just a fighter. But when he got his platform, all of a sudden he's reaching tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people for da'wah, that a sheikh could preach his whole life and be an excellent sheikh. But he just can't make that reach because nobody listens. I mean, people who listen to a sheikh are people who want to listen to a sheikh. True or false? But the fighter, all of a sudden, left field, came out of nowhere. At least for those of us who are not familiar with fighting. He just showed up, all of a sudden he's very famous. Millions, if not tens of millions of non-Muslims are lending him an ear. This guy became so rich and he's still humble. He's so rich and he still brought his father forward and said he's so rich, and when they would give him these huge luxury suites when they would go fight, he would put the oldest of their party into the big suite and he would sit on the secondary bed or sleep on the floor. They said, and the trainers who were with them who were not Muslim were just telling these stories like, what's going on? What is this? They were so shocked by this behavior. And this da'wah reached hundreds of millions of people. You can be that way. You can be that way. Allah will use you if you have the correct intention. You just have to have the intention and say, oh Allah, Allahumma sta'amilna wa la tastabdilna. Say Ameen. Oh Allah, use us and do not replace us. And say, oh Allah, I want to find a way. My talents, my skills, my circumstance, the position Allah has placed me, I want it to serve the ummah. And Allah will guide you towards that. I promise you this. So that skill, Jazakallah khairan Usama, if you cannot block out the noise or silence the noise, you amplify the signal. What does amplify mean? Strengthen it. So he said, give the speaker a mic. If you have access, if that's something you can do, give the speaker a mic. Repeat the signal. Find some way. Like when we say retweet and post and share and whatever, they are trying every single time. They tell you what a waste of time. You guys just activists online. Meanwhile, the same people telling you what you're wasting your time, they're doing the same exact thing that they're telling you not to bother to do. The war, the main war that's happening is a propaganda war. The main war that's happening is the hearts and the minds. They told us, so many posts I've seen online, and even some Muslims, may Allah forgive them, saying, what are you, internet activists now, keyboard warriors? You retweet things and you think you did something? And then, a few days ago, they proposed, or they successfully passed a bill to ban TikTok. Well, what a coincidence. Why are they banning TikTok? They have some nonsense about China this, China that, but all of a sudden, the pro-Palestine movement, or the exposure of Zionism, the number one platform on the internet where it's been exposed has been TikTok by far. People, last week, On Jum'ah, 3 people came to accept Islam. Three young men. May Allah Ta'ala guide their hearts and bless them. 2 of them took their shahada. 1 of them is still in the process. I always ask them, so what guided you to Islam? The first guy said, and he's in his 30s. He's like, oh, I saw a video on TikTok. Started my journey. Second guy, his friend came to him in school. One of you guys, may Allah reward you. But later, he did the rest of his research on TikTok. So of course, social media is full of garbage, don't get me wrong. We're talking about signal and noise. Social media is almost all noise. It's all garbage. And you got to swim through the garbage to find the good. However, I cannot deny its value in amplifying the voices of good. SubhanAllah, Allah has allowed their tools that they wanted to use to subvert us, to sexualize content and make people waste their time with nonsense and all that garbage and dancing and music. That's what TikTok was known for. It still is known for that. It's still used majorly for garbage. Now, you notice that the government here had no problem with it to ban it when it was all just garbage. When people dancing, in terrible clothing in public, and it was just basic garbage, they're like, oh, that's fine. Let our youth consume that garbage. As soon as it became the number 1 factor, at least for youth, for changing the hearts and minds in the Palestine movement and exposing the shayateen of Zionism, they powered through that bill. How quickly did they get that bill and they banned it? Well, it still has some steps left, but it passed in Congress, if I'm not mistaken. So you see how they work. They're at the same time that they're telling you, don't waste your time. What are you retweeting? You think you're making a difference? In the back end, they're having secret meetings with the ADL, 100% true story, saying TikTok is one of our biggest problems now. And then they got it banned in Congress. So beware. That's how noise works. They want to, there's a term also, if you're looking to write terms, these are really, really important. You will use them for your whole life. It's called muddying the waters. Muddying the waters. To put mud into the water. What do you do? What happens in the clear water when you put mud into it? It gets very, I can't see. So they don't mind. They will throw as much noise as possible. When you're talking about all the strategies we talked about, getting closer to the signal, getting further away from the noise, trying to silence as much of the noise as possible, amplifying the signal if that's all I can do, or doing all the above, they're also working. They don't go to sleep. They're working. بَلْ مَكْرُ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ Allah says in the Quran. They are plotting day and night. عَامِلَةٌ نَاصِبَةٌ تَصْلَى نَارًا حَامِيَةً. They work so hard, but they will roast in the hellfire anyway. May Allah Ta'ala roast them in the hellfire. So, while you're trying to amplify the signal, they are trying to amplify the noise. They are adding 15 new voices every day. They are using bots to spread their message. They are confusing you. And by the way, I know we are focusing, or we tend to use examples from the Palestine situation and our brothers and sisters, which is fair. We should be talking about that. But I'm telling you, this skill is used for everything. Before these past 7 months, TikTok, and like a year ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know how long TikTok's been around, had nothing to do with these movements. But TikTok was a tool of evil, primarily. True or false? It was the most app, I think it still is, the most app used by teens in America. I forgot what the average was. I think it was like something like 4 or 5 hours a day just for TikTok, on average, for teenagers. And then that's besides all the other apps. I could be wrong about the number, but it was really high. And on average, I think they said 2,000 per day. 2,000 like thumb. They tracked people's like thumb sort of taps. It was like an average like 2,000 taps per day. I was like, it was like some insane number. You don't know, you don't realize. So when it was being used for that, so my point being is that I'm not just using the example of Palestine and Gaza and so on. Anything else. Before that, TikTok was a form of just noise in your mind, distracting you from your goals. Hey, watch this dancing video. Watch this funny video. Watch this, watch this. 5 years go by, and you've spent the equivalent hours of a bachelor's degree. You've spent the equivalent hours of 2 bachelor's degrees, and you got neither. Well, you got a bachelor's degree in TikTok dance garbage. But it doesn't pay well, right? So that's my point. You can apply it there, and you can apply it to literally everything else. So the definition of noise is any distraction that takes your focus away from your goals and wastes your time. Any distraction that takes you away from your goals and wastes your time. So, in order to recognize, very important, in order to recognize what's noise and what's a signal, you first have to have goals, right? Otherwise, I don't know what's taking me away from my goals. I don't even know. I never wrote my goals down. Question, raise your hand. How many of you have written 5 major goals that you have in life at some point in your life? Raise your hand. Okay. For those, that's less than half. May Allah Ta'ala bless you all. We've done that exercise together a number of times. Every single person here, Write this down. You must write 5 major goals that you have in life. Be as specific as possible. Don't say, I would like to go to Jannah. I would like to too, inshallah. May Allah make us of the highest level of Jannah. That's not a goal. It's not specific enough. It is a goal. Sorry. It's not specific enough to make the list of 5. How are you going to get to Jannah? I would like to, for me personally, I would like to continue to learn knowledge and spread knowledge until I have reached 100 million people. It's a crazy goal, but it's specific. And I can start working towards it. You might say, for you, what's yours? I would like to graduate from my degree in engineering so I can, and then write it, so I can make some money and serve the ummah and live a comfortable life. That's fine too. Be specific. But you need to have 5 major goals. Don't tell me like I want to do something tomorrow, that goal can finish tomorrow. This is 5 major goals. Every single person here has to write 5 major lifetime goals and then have it written somewhere. Put it in your phone. Send it to yourself as an email. Print it out. Put it in your desk. You got to. If you don't know what your goals are, you won't know what's the noise. You don't know what to remove from your list. Because, well, I don't even know what I'm seeking. I don't even know which path I'm walking. So I don't know if I'm going in the right direction or not. Someone directs you, hey, come to the left a little bit. You're like, sure. I mean, I don't even know where I'm going, so I'll go to the left. Come to the right a little bit. Yeah, sure. I don't even know what path I'm following. But once you know what path you're on, someone says, hey, let's go left. You're like, no, I can't. I'm going straight. I need to go this way. You're distracting me. You're wasting my time. I'm going to make a U-turn, and I'm going to lose years of my life. But if you're not on a path, people take you wherever they want. And you honestly don't even notice. Okay. There's an expression, he who chases 2 rabbits will catch neither. He who chases 2 rabbits will catch neither. Hazim, we have the Slido. I'm saying, can you, do we have a tablet or should I use my phone? I'll use my phone. Give me the links. Text me the link if you don't mind. All right, so I want to get to the Slido soon, inshallah. I'll give you some, maybe like 5 more minutes. I'll finish up with this. So I hope that, I said there's 2 definitions for noise, right? The first one is anything that distracts you from your goals and wastes your time. And number 2, which is important in our era that I kept talking about, is information overload. The second definition for noise is information overload. So not all the noise that you're hearing, not all the voices that you're hearing is going to be bad. It just, you don't have the mental energy, you don't have the time in the dunya to listen to every single voice out there. True or false? You can't. There's too much. Maybe 5 out of 10 of them are good. You just don't have time. And imagine if you're sifting through all of that. You're spending all of your time listening to 50 voices. You never have time to focus. He who chases 2 rabbits catches neither. You need focus. So information overload is a bad thing in and of itself. So what's the solution? You need to have a process to limit the noises that you hear. Because you need focus. Especially in your younger years. Later, as you get older, you tend to develop a focus. But you can lose a lot of time in the process. You can completely delay your life by 15 years and be so depressed, everyone's ahead of me and whatnot, because you didn't know you were chasing 15 things, you achieved none of them, and everyone's ahead of you, khalas. You got to play catch up, and inshallah you do, but you put yourself in a terrible position. So information overload is what we face today. Opinion overload is another way to phrase it, but that goes without saying. I'll give you guys one last example. Imagine anybody is a convert to Islam here? Raise your hand. SubhanAllah, nobody. So may Allah Ta'ala allow us to be in more service of our convert brothers and sisters and hopefully make them welcome at these halaqas and make them feel that they can be a part of this. But alhamdulillah, we have a number of converts in our community. But let me ask you this. Assume this is a thought experiment. Let's say you are a non-Muslim here in America. You've been hearing about these protests and this and that, and you're saying, man, what is this Islam thing? I got to look it up. Or I got to find out about Islam. What's your first step? You are a non-Muslim in America. You want to find out about Islam. What's the first step you take? Yes. Do your research. How? Where do you go? No, not me. What would you do? If you're in that shoes, I would like to learn about Islam. I don't know anything about it. What's your first step? So TikTok. That would be your first. Maybe you're saying it because I kept using that word 50 times here. Or would that really be your first place? You just go to search and write Islam. All right. So would you actually do that? If you're trying to learn about Islam, you would physically go to the mosque, even though being a complete stranger. I don't know these people. They might blow me up. That's what the world taught you, right? But no, I mean, jokes aside, even if you don't fear them, like, would anybody do that? Would you guys physically go to that place? I would never. That would be 10th on my list. So what would you guys do? Let me go this way. Sister, yes. Great. So you go YouTube, Google, search, right? The Quran. Okay, so that's something you would consider one of the first things. Interesting. All right, yes. Internet, yes. So I think we've all established, I think honestly speaking, 90+% of people, at least in the Western world, the very first thing they would do is go to internet, search. So whether it's TikTok or Sister Said, YouTube or Google, or even ask friends. Of course, I always ask converts, what led you to Islam? A sizable percentage of them say my friends. First things first, my friend told me, then I did Google and research and whatnot. So you are an influence. You can influence your friends. Don't be afraid to talk about Islam. Obviously, don't be too pushy because that can be perceived negatively, but don't self-censor. Do not self-censor. If there's an opportunity they're asking, or even if they're a little bit tiny bit curious, or there's a room, plant a seed. I've made that mistake hundreds of times. I self-censor because I don't want them to think I'm preaching. I mean, at this point, no, I realize people are hungry. They want truth. They're accepting Islam faster than ever before. Why should we deny them that opportunity? Plant a seed. You never know, subhanAllah. Most people say, my friend told me about it, then I started looking up. Other people say, no, I found this out online, straight up. And that was 2 of the 3 brothers who came last week to accept Islam. So yes, the reality is you're going to go online. What do you find online? You find tons of noise and voices and conflicting voices. Don't become a Muslim. Islam is wrong. Islam does this. Islam does that. So now this person, you are this person now. Oh my God, I just got bombarded. I looked up the word Islam on YouTube. I got 50 videos. This one has 10 million views. This one has this one. My last question, how do you choose? You're on YouTube. You're non-Muslim. You want to learn about Islam. You go to YouTube. You write Islam or TikTok, Islam. First 5 results are the ones that usually have the most views, whatever, right? Now what? One of the top 3 videos is Islam's a terrible religion. Here's 10 reasons why. Another one of them is here Islam's a wonderful religion. Here's 10 reasons why. What do you do? Yes. Why? So why would you do that if you're a non-Muslim who has no bias? Well, he doesn't want to convert yet. He's like, what is this Islam thing? I've never really paid attention to it, but now it's in the news every day. Which one do you think he'll click? Okay, that's fair. So his own bias, his own emotion would direct which one he clicks on. What about you guys? What do you think? What's the process there? Yes. Interesting. So they would be attracted to and that's why people put our sister said he'd be attracted to the one that says negative things first. And that's actually true. They've done studies. Negative attention, that's why negativity sells and it makes way more views. And the guy has a thumbnail where he's like, oh my God, and those crazy things. They do that because it's money. And it actually gets clicks. So unfortunately, negativity could spread further. But I'm asking you in those shoes, what's your process? Right? One more voice, yes. All right, great. So I would consider both. All right, so that's a process too. Some people will say, well, none of you guys mentioned this. I'll go to the one that has the most views, or I'll go to the one that has the most thumbs up. You know, it has 80% likes, so that means people like it a lot. That's usually what I'll go to the one that's more popular. Usually, what people do, and this is again blocking out the signal from the noise. How do I decide what to dress? How do I decide what career path to choose? How do I decide how to talk? What kind of language do I use? What kind of slurs or not, do I curse? Do I not curse? Most of us living in this era, we are slaves to the algorithm. Whatever shows up your way, slowly it molds how you think. And that's what we need to understand. There are so many avenues out there trying to brainwash us. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يكون أحدكم أو لا يكن أحدكم إمعة. None of you should allow themselves to be a sponge. Do not just absorb everything that's out there. Have a process. I'll go very quickly through my list of having a process, or your action items rather, and then we can talk about them in the questions or at a later date, inshallah. Action items. Number 1, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ilzam baytak, أو وليسعك بيتك." He said, your home should be sufficient for you, should suffice you. You should find comfort in your home. You should not be so obsessed with being part of the latest and the trends and this and that you just need that. You need to feed off of people's energy. You need to say, I am sufficient in my own. I will interact with the people, and I will teach good, and I will gravitate towards good, but I don't need that. The people who have a desperate need to be part of the latest, they are in trouble because they're just going to go with the flow. They're going to be a sponge. Absorb, and even inside the house, it's a danger because of the phone, right? People's influence on you. So don't be a sponge, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Have your own principles. Number 2, action item. Keep good company and be aggressive in disconnecting from bad company. We're not aggressive enough with that, and then we end up getting influenced, right? Number 3, reduce your distractions, reduce the avenues of noise. So as much as you can, reduce the places that influence you negatively, whether it's the internet. When you check your phone in your screen time, I'm doing 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever. I'm using garbage. I'm following bad pages that keep influencing me, triggering me to do evil things. You block. You disconnect. You delete the app if that's what you need to do. Whatever it is that is causing you the noise and interrupting you and keeping you down and pulling you towards hellfire, your job is to disconnect from that noise as much as you can. Reduce those avenues. Number 4, have a process. Whoever has no process is a sheep. Let me ask you guys this. How many of you admit that you're a sheep? Raise your hand. Nobody. Not one. How come? Okay, we all know that 90% of people are sheep. True or false? True or false? And come on, like statistically speaking, most of you guys are sheep. But nobody raised their hand. Not one. One more time. How many of you are sheep? Raise your hand. Nobody admits it. But the most people are sheep. So the bottom line is, even the sheep don't admit it. Everyone lies to themselves and says, no, I'm a critical thinker. I follow the latest trend on TikTok because I like to, not because the algorithm told me to. Sure. I got the latest haircut from this rapper because I wanted to, not because the algorithm and everybody else did it. Sure. You know, I bought the latest trend for quadruple the money that a shoe costs because I wanted to. Nobody actually convinced me to do this. I did it on my own free will. No. You're sheep. That's what it is. So nobody wants to admit that they're sheep. It should make you think. It should make you really curious. Wait a second. I will never admit that I'm sheep. That's true. So that means I need another technique to show me if I'm a sheep. I need to have a strategy to show me if I'm following. You get what I'm saying? Nobody will ever admit that they got fooled, that they got duped, that they're just following the latest trend. That means I cannot rely on my own self-reflection. It's not enough. I will never admit it. I need to have an external tool to show me if I'm being a sheep or not. Understood? In my lifestyle choices, the way I choose to speak, the music I want to listen to or not listen to, the videos I like to watch, the people I keep company, all those choices are being made for you. Why do I feel such an urgent need to get the latest gadget or the latest clothing or follow the latest person? Why? Why is it burning desire in me? It's not because I made my own choices and I'm a free man or free woman. No, it's because I'm a sheep and they programmed me and they succeeded. So a person who's willing to admit this is going to go really far and climb above, inshallah. So beware of that. You are not a trustworthy source for to assess if you're a sheep or not. Very important. Think about this. I know the seed it will be planted, inshallah. Last thing is that, so you have to have a process. Obviously, at the top of your process should be Quran and Sunnah. Last thing, understand that confusion will increase in the future. It will not decrease. Guys, confusion will only increase in the future, not decrease. I know it seems really good today, and I'm really hopeful for what we're seeing. People are joining the movement. People are turning to Islam. It's very hopeful, and we should keep that hope. Keep the momentum rising. But understand that there will be bad times after good, and nothing goes up in a straight line. It goes up and down, but it's on the way up, inshallah. But beware, confusion will be here, as the Prophet ﷺ warned. So beware, have a process, stick to the Quran and Sunnah, and learn to block out the noise. I want you guys later on to Google this skill. There's so many videos about it, Muslims, non-Muslims. There's people teaching you how to apply it to the workplace, how to apply it to social influences, blocking out the noise. It's a skill you will use for the rest of your life. It's the way that you will be able to be able to quickly, as you develop the skill better, quickly decide, no, these people are just all chatting. Like, I don't have time. I have to decide by process of elimination. I'm in a situation, I have to make a decision within the hour or within the day or within the week. There's 10 different voices. How do I develop a process of elimination? I have to delete 9 of them, or at least 8 of them, and make a decision between the last 2. Blocking out the noise is one of the top skills, the critical thinking skills you can use to develop that, inshallah. All right, so I'm going to go to the Slido. I think it was posted up. I'll go to the questions, inshallah. Let's do like 3 or 4 of them within the next 5 minutes, and then we're done, inshallah. So the top question says, what are nightmares? Do some of them have a specific meaning, and how can we deal with them? So in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ taught us that there are 3 types of dreams a person may have. 3 types of dreams. The first is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-ru'ya as-sadiqa aw as-salihah is a dream that is true or that is righteous. This is and this can happen to any believer. And sometimes it can happen to a non-believer, but it's Allah gives you a dream, either symbolic or either like literally you see something that's going to happen in the future. And it happens, the Prophet ﷺ said, as the authentic hadith, as the day of judgment draws near, as we get closer to the Day of Judgment, there will be an increase in true dreams for the believers. Allah will increase the true dreams for the believers as a way to console our hearts. The difficulty will arise, confusion will arise like we just talked about, and Allah will send true dreams to sort of reassure the hearts. Very important though, never ever ever follow a person who tells you, I'm the leader because I saw in a dream. Never. There's so many of these people out there. They fool people every single day. Dreams are personal benefit to you. You cannot convince others because of a dream that you saw. Dreams in Islam are personal. Allah might reassure you about a decision that you're about to take or that you're scared about. Allah might give you a reassurance about a loved one who has died or so on and so forth. Things like that. They're personal. You can never tell with certainty that it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah gives your heart reassurance. لِيَطْمَئِنَّ بِهَا قَلْبُكَ, to reassure your heart and to allow you to know, inshallah ta'ala, that you are doing the right thing. This is the first category of dreams. The first is a true dream from God. The second category is an evil dream that is from the influence of shaitan. Usually this dream makes you very sad. Usually this dream is very scary. Loved ones dying, yourself in a terrible position, etc. And then the third type of dream, the Prophet ﷺ said, is مَا يُحَدِّثُ بِهِ نَفْسُكَ أو مَا تُحَدِّثُ بِهِ نَفْسُكَ. What your nafs created. It just, you ate too much pizza that night, you fell asleep. You've been thinking about this issue obsessing over it for a few days, and of course then you see it in your sleep. So how do you differentiate between the three? If you have a process, you will minimize the last two categories and you will maximize the chance of the top category, meaning the one that's true dreams or blessed dreams from Allah. What process? I don't have them all off the top of my head, but making wudu before you go to bed, saying Ayatul Kursi before you go to bed. The Prophet ﷺ said Allah will assign an angel to stand guard on your bed every night. When you enter your house, you say Bismillah. When you leave, you say Bismillah. You do not have any pictures of living things hanging in your house, especially in your room as well, but your whole house. You don't have any dogs in the house. Anything that invites the shayateen, you remove it from your house. Anything that kicks the shayateen out and invites the angels, you bring it into your house. Reciting Surah Al-Baqarah in your house, at least periodically, Surah Al-Imran. Make sure prayer is happening in your home. Making sure the adhan is happening in your home, the iqamah. These are all things that will lead towards, inshallah, you having better dreams and avoiding the satanic influence in dreams. Making the adhkar that are before bed, there's plenty of them. I mentioned only one of them, Ayatul Kursi, but there's plenty. So these things this process will minimize the damage or the possibility of damage, and will increase the chance of barakah in your dreams. If somebody sees a nightmare, especially a recurring one, the Prophet ﷺ advised to check your process. What are you missing here? You didn't bother to pray Isha. You don't pray your prayers. You have pictures hanging up. You have music playing in your ear while you're sleeping. You have dogs in your house. You have pictures. I'm surprised you don't get nightmares every day. Like, you're lucky it's only once in a while. Once you remove this stuff, it's like somebody says, hey, I'm starting to get very unhealthy. My body is failing on me. They go to the doctor and they're like, hey doctor, what's going on? Does somebody do magic on me? And they goes like, how many burgers do you eat per day? It's like, well, however many I could fit in my mouth. And they're like, blood pressure is terrible, cholesterol is terrible, everything's terrible. Oh, how many miles do you run per week? Per week? I never ran in my life. It's like, oh, well, you don't have one problem, you have every problem. Don't come tell me someone did sihr on you when you fix the things that we can, fix your process, and then come to me and tell me my health is failing.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله